When a titan from beyond the stars falls upon Dathomir, the Force itself trembles. His skin purple as twilight, his will unbending as durasteel, Thanos brings with him a vision of balance that chills even the Night Sisters to their core. Through ancient crystals and forbidden magics, he calculates the galaxy's salvation, half of all beings, vanishing like morning mist. As Jedi lightsabers ignite against impossible strength, one question haunts the stars. Is mercy still mercy when it comes through devastation? The Night Sister fortress on Dathomir trembled, ancient stone cracking as crimson lightning fractured the sky. Mother Talzin stood frozen in her ritual chamber, withered fingers suspended over a cauldron of green mist. Something had broken through the veil of reality, something that made even the spirits of Dathomir recoil in terror. The ancient witch had lived centuries, communed with entities beyond comprehension, but never had she felt such a disturbance in the cosmic fabric. "Sisters," she whispered, as the ichor in her veins turned cold, "prepare the fortress." Across the blood-red plains, Separatist siege tanks advanced toward the Night Sister stronghold, their mechanical precision a stark contrast to the primal landscape. General Grievous watched from a command ship, his reptilian eyes narrowing with anticipation. Count Dooku had ordered the obliteration of the witches, and the cyborg general would not disappoint his master. The battle droids deployed in perfect formation, thousands of metal soldiers marching toward the crimson mist that perpetually shrouded the witch domain. Neither the Night Sisters nor the Separatist forces were prepared for what happened next. The sky above Dathomir split open, not with the familiar burn of entering starships, but with a wound in reality itself. Space folded inward, creating a singularity that devoured light and sound, before exploding outward in a pulse of energy that knocked battle droids to the ground and sent Night Sisters stumbling in their defensive positions. From this rupture emerged a massive figure, his skin an impossible shade of violet, his armor gleaming gold in Dathomir's red sunlight. As his boots touched the blood-soaked soil, plants withered in a perfect circle around him. Thanos had arrived in a galaxy far, far away. The Titan surveyed the battlefield with eyes that had witnessed the birth and death of worlds. Battle droids recovered their positions and immediately registered the newcomer as a threat, redirecting their fire from the Night Sister fortress to this new anomaly. Blaster bolts streaked toward Thanos, who stood unmoved as the energy weapons struck his armored form. The bolts simply dissipated against his skin. With methodical calm, Thanos strode forward. A battle droid commander approached with reinforcements, its mechanical voice demanding identification. The Titan reached out with one massive hand, closing it around the droid's head and crushing it with negligible effort. His movement was not rushed, not fueled by anger, but executed with the inevitability of gravity. Grievous watched from his command ship, his organic heart beating faster within its mechanical cage. "What is this creature?" he demanded of his tactical droid, who could only report that no match existed in their database. In the fortress, Mother Talzin sensed something beyond physical power in the newcomer. There was a void around him, an absence in the Force itself, as though he existed partially outside its currents. More concerning was the purpose she felt radiating from him, a conviction so absolute it bent reality around his will. "Sisters," she commanded, "bring him to me, alive." Dozens of Night Sisters descended from the fortress walls, their movements fluid and predatory. They surrounded Thanos, who regarded them with something approaching curiosity. One witch launched forward, her enchanted blade slicing toward the Titan's throat with supernatural speed. Thanos caught her wrist mid-strike. "Your magics are impressive," he said, his voice resonant and calm. "But I have encountered sorcery across countless worlds." With minimal effort, he disarmed the witch and pushed her back toward her sisters, the gesture almost gentle despite its power. "I seek knowledge, not conflict." The battle paused as an unexpected presence entered the field. A Republic gunship descended through Dathomir's atmosphere, landing between the Separatist forces and the standoff between Thanos and the Night Sisters. The ship's doors opened to reveal Jedi Master Plo Koon, his masked face betraying no emotion as he assessed the unprecedented situation. "The disturbance in the Force is centered on you, stranger," the Jedi Master said, his filtered voice carrying across the battlefield. "Your arrival has created ripples that every Force sensitive in the sector has felt." Thanos turned to face the Keldor Jedi, genuine interest visible in his expression. "The Force," he repeated, tasting the word. "Your binding energy. I sensed it immediately upon arrival. Different from the energies of my universe, yet familiar in its fundamental nature." Plo Koon ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade humming with power. "I must ask your intentions in this galaxy. Your presence feels unnatural." "Unnatural," Thanos echoed, a grim smile forming. "A perspective I have encountered before. I am Thanos of Titan, and I come seeking knowledge. My purpose has always been singular, Master Jedi, balance." The word hung in the air, resonating with unexpected weight. Plo Koon felt a chill through the Force, for balance was the most sacred pursuit of the Jedi Order, yet something in how this stranger spoke the word carried ominous undertones. Overhead, a solar sailor descended through the atmosphere, its distinctive sail folding as it approached. Count Dooku had arrived, drawn by the same disturbance that had brought the Jedi. The Sith Lord emerged from his vessel, his aristocratic features composed in a mask of diplomatic concern. "Master Plo," Dooku acknowledged with formal coldness before turning his attention to Thanos. "You have interrupted a military operation and decimated separatist forces. However, I sense you are no ally of the Republic either." Thanos regarded the three powers that now converged around him, representatives of the galaxy's ancient conflicts. "Your war is of no interest to me," he stated plainly, "though its wastefulness is familiar. Resources squandered, lives expended without purpose. I have seen this pattern repeat across countless civilizations." Mother Talzin had emerged from her fortress, floating above the ground, green mist swirling around her spectral form. "This one exists outside the web of destiny," she hissed, her voice carrying through the Force rather than air. "He brings imbalance merely by existing here." "Or perhaps," Dooku countered, his politician's mind working swiftly, "he brings opportunity. The Republic and Jedi claim to fight for peace, yet resist the decisive actions needed to achieve it. Perhaps our visitor understands what they cannot." Plo Koon stepped forward, his lightsaber still humming. "The dark side promises quick solutions, Count, but demands terrible prices. I sense this stranger knows much about terrible prices." Thanos watched the exchange with detached interest, as though observing insects debating the nature of the boot about to crush them. Then he spoke with the certainty of one who had calculated every variable and arrived at an inescapable conclusion. "Your galaxy is imbalanced," he stated. "Overpopulated, overextended, consuming itself through conflict. I have devoted my existence to addressing such imbalance. In my reality, I sought artifacts of immense power to accomplish this goal. Here, it seems, the Force itself might serve the same purpose." The implications sent a collective shudder through all who heard. Grievous, watching from his ship, felt an unfamiliar sensation: dread. Dooku sensed opportunity but also danger to his master's grand designs. Plo Koon perceived a threat beyond separatists or Sith, a philosophical cancer that could destroy the very foundations of life in their galaxy. Mother Talzin alone smiled, her ancient eyes gleaming with terrible understanding. "Sisters," she commanded, "prepare the great ritual chamber. Our guest will require accommodation worthy of his vision." As Dathomir's red sun began to set, the galaxy's future tilted on its axis, pulled by the gravity of a new and terrible purpose. The Force itself seemed to tremble, as though sensing the calculations forming in the mind of the mad Titan. Balance. But at what cost? In the days that followed, Thanos established himself in the abandoned sections of the Night Sister Fortress, granted sanctuary by Mother Talzin despite the objections of both Republic and Separatist forces. The ancient witch recognized something in the Titan that resonated with Night Sister. Philosophy. A willingness to manipulate life and death in service of greater purpose. While Dooku withdrew his forces temporarily, maintaining surveillance from orbit, the Jedi Council dispatched additional masters to assess the unprecedented threat. Thanos spent hours in meditation, acclimating himself to this new reality. The absence of the Infinity Stones created both limitation and freedom, forcing him to reconsider approaches that had become fundamental to his crusade. The Force, however, presented fascinating alternatives. Unlike the defined, specific powers of the stones, the Force flowed through all living things, a persistent energy that could potentially be redirected to achieve his goal. Master Plo Koon, tasked with diplomatic observation, found the Titan in one such meditative state on the third day after his arrival. "Your presence continues to create disturbances," the Jedi said, maintaining a respectful distance. "Every Force-sensitive being in the galaxy reports dreams of dust and vanishing stars." Thanos opened his eyes, regarding the Kel door with measured interest. "Your Force responds to intention, Master Jedi. I have merely been exploring its nature, not yet acting upon it." "Not yet," Plo Koon repeated, the words hanging ominously between them. "You speak of balance. Thanos of Titan. The Jedi Order has dedicated millennia to maintaining balance in the Force. And yet, Thanos rose to his full height, towering over the Jedi Master. Your galaxy remains consumed by war, suffering, and wasteful consumption of resources. Trillions of beings compete for limited sustainability, their populations expanding beyond what worlds can support. This is not balance, Master Jedi. This is the prelude to collapse." Plo Koon's mask concealed his expression, but his posture stiffened. "Life finds its own balance if given the chance. The dark side tempts with shortcuts, with solutions imposed rather than discovered. I am familiar with resistance to inevitable truths," Thanos replied, his tone almost gentle despite the terrible weight of his words. "In every world I have visited, those with power convince themselves that prosperity without limit is possible, that populations can expand indefinitely without consequence. Reality proves otherwise, always." Their philosophical impasse was interrupted by the arrival of Night Sister sentinels, who bowed with uncharacteristic deference to Thanos. "Mother Talzin requests your presence in the Great Circle. The alignment of the moons approaches." Plo Koon watched as Thanos followed the witches deeper into the fortress, a sense of foreboding growing within him. Through the Force, he sent an urgent message to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The situation on Dathomir was escalating beyond diplomatic containment. Within the heart of the fortress, Mother Talzin had prepared an ancient ritual chamber, its walls inscribed with symbols that predated the Night Sisters themselves. Green flame burned in braziers, arranged in a precise geometric pattern, and the witches chanted in harmonic tones that resonated with the planet's core frequency. "The winged goddess spoke of you," Talzin said as Thanos entered, her spectral form hovering above a central altar. "Not you specifically, perhaps, but of a being from beyond the veil who would understand the deeper purpose of our magics." Thanos observed the ritual preparations with analytical precision. "Your powers differ from the sorcery I have encountered elsewhere. Less refined, perhaps, but more directly connected to natural forces. We do not constrain our magic with philosophy or moral limitation," Talzin replied, her voice echoing unnaturally. "Life and death are not opposites but phases in a continuous cycle. The Jedi and Sith both fail to understand this fundamental truth." "An impressive perspective," Thanos acknowledged. "On my world, few had the courage to accept such realities." He approached the altar, studying the artifacts arranged. There, ancient talismans that pulsed with living energy. "These objects, they channel your planet's power?" "They focus intention," Talzin corrected. "The power comes from life itself, from the boundary between existence and non-existence." Her withered hand gestured to the largest artifact, a crystalline structure that resembled a compressed star. This is the heart of the slate, the oldest relic of Dathomir. It can transfer life force from one vessel to another across vast distances. Thanos lifted the crystal, turning it to catch the green firelight. For a moment, something like reverence crossed his features. In my universe, I wielded stones of comparable power, each governing a fundamental aspect of reality. With them, I could reshape existence with a thought, a snap of fingers. And what did you reshape, Thanos of Titan? Talzin asked, though her ancient eyes suggested she already knew the answer. Balance, he replied simply. I eliminated half of all life, chosen at random, fair to rich and poor alike. Resources doubled for the survivors, suffering reduced, prosperity made sustainable. The Night Sisters surrounding them did not react with horror but with contemplative silence. Their culture had always viewed death as a transition rather than an end, and population culling as occasionally necessary for tribal strength. Talzin herself nodded slowly, the mist around her form swirling faster. The winged goddess foretold this, she whispered. A great culling, but one performed with purpose rather than malice. A pruning of the cosmic tree to allow new growth. Outside the fortress walls, unaware of the terrible communion taking place within, Count Dooku conferred with his master via hologram. Darth Sidious, his face concealed beneath his hood, listened with growing concern to the description of Thanos and his apparent powers. This being represents an unknown variable in our design, Lord Tyrannus, Sidious said, his voice crackling through the transmission. His talk of balance and population reduction could interfere with the war we have so carefully orchestrated. Perhaps he could be turned to our advantage, Master, Dooku suggested. His power would make him a valuable asset. Or a rival, Sidious countered sharply. No, this Thanos must be eliminated before he disrupts decades of planning. The Jedi will move against him soon, sensing the darkness of his intentions. Allow them to engage first, observe his capabilities, then strike when the opportunity presents itself. Dooku bowed. As you wish, my master. On Coruscant, the Jedi Council had convened an emergency session based on Master Plo Koon's reports. The chamber was unusually full, with additional masters attending via hologram from across the galaxy. A philosophical threat as much as a physical one, Master Windu summarized, his expression grave. This being proposes mass extermination as a solution to resource scarcity. Yoda, his ancient eyes closed in deep concentration, shook his head slowly. Clouded, the Force is, around this visitor. Outside our reality, he exists partially. Difficult to sense his true nature. Master Plo reports that he demonstrates immense physical strength, apparent invulnerability to blaster fire, and tactical intelligence, Ki Adimundi added. More concerning is his interest in Night Sister magics, particularly those involving life manipulation. We cannot allow him to remain on Dathomir, Master Windu decided. If he truly intends galaxy-wide population reduction, we must act preemptively. Yoda opened his eyes, his expression unusually troubled. Careful we must be. Validated his philosophy will be, if with violence we meet him immediately. Speak with him first, I will. The council chambers fell silent at this unexpected declaration. Yoda rarely left Coruscant during the ongoing war, reserving his wisdom for strategic guidance rather than field operations. Master Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi said carefully, if this being is, as dangerous as reported, sending our Grand Master alone seems unwise. Alone I will not be, Yoda replied with the faintest smile. Surrounded by the Force, I am always. Leave immediately, I will. As preparations began for Yoda's journey to Dathomir, Thanos continued his study of the Force under Talzin's guidance. The Night Sister matriarch revealed ancient techniques for sensing and manipulating the energy field, techniques forbidden by both Jedi and Sith for their disregard of natural boundaries. The Jedi treat the Force as a companion to be respected, Talzin explained, as they stood in the ritual circle beneath Dathomir's 3 moons. The Sith treat it as a tool to be dominated. Both are limited perspectives. The Force simply is, neither light nor dark, neither good nor evil. It responds to will and intention. Thanos nodded, his expression thoughtful. In my universe, the fundamental energies had no moral alignment either. They simply existed as cosmic constants. Morality was imposed by those who wielded them. Precisely, Talzin hissed with approval. Now, reach out as I taught you. Feel the life force of Dathomir, of each creature and plant. Feel how they connect, forming a web of energy. Thanos closed his eyes, extending his consciousness as directed. Unlike Force sensitives born to this galaxy, his connection was not intuitive but analytical, a methodical mapping of energy patterns. Yet his exceptional will allowed him to grasp concepts that would take others decades to master. I feel them, he said, his deep voice hushed. Millions of connections, each a thread in a vast tapestry. Now, Talzin whispered, select one thread and sever it. Without hesitation, Thanos focused on a distant life form, a predator stalking the Dathomirian plains. With precise mental pressure, he interrupted the creature's connection to the Force. Kilometers away, the beast collapsed, its life essence dispersing back into the planet's energy field. Efficient, Thanos commented, opening his eyes, but limited in scale. To achieve true balance would require affecting trillions simultaneously. Talzin's smile revealed blackened teeth. That is why we have prepared the heart of the slate. With sufficient power, it can amplify intention across star systems, even across the galaxy. But such working would require energy beyond what even the Night Sisters can harness. What energy source would be sufficient? Thanos asked, already calculating possibilities. Before Talzin could answer, a Night Sister messenger arrived, her expression tense. Mother, Republic ships have entered orbit. The Jedi Grand Master requests an audience with our guest. Talzin's eyes narrowed. Yoda himself comes to Dathomir? The Jedi must truly fear your potential, Thanos of Titan. Fear is unnecessary, Thanos replied calmly. I welcome dialogue with those wise enough to consider uncomfortable truths. Prepare for the Grand Master's arrival. As a small Republic shuttle descended toward the Night Sister fortress, the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy meditated on the confrontation to come. Yoda had lived nearly 900 years, witnessed the rise and fall of governments, the birth and death of stars. Few beings in the galaxy could match his perspective on the cycles of history and the nature of balance. Perhaps that was why he approached Thanos, not with predetermined hostility, but with genuine curiosity about what drove such a being to such extreme conclusions. The shuttle landed on a plateau near the fortress, and Yoda emerged alone, his small figure a stark contrast to the imposing landscape of Dathomir. He walked slowly toward the fortress entrance, where Thanos awaited, having chosen to meet the Jedi Master on neutral ground rather than within the Night Sister domain. They regarded each other in silence for a long moment, two beings of immense power and radically different philosophies, meeting at the crossroads of fate. Traveled far, you have, Yoda, finally said. Not just in distance, but in perspective. Thanos inclined his head slightly. Your reputation precedes you, Grand Master Yoda. Few in this galaxy command such respect across opposing factions. Respect, earned through understanding, it is. Yoda replied, leaning on his gimmer stick. Understand your purpose here. I wish to. My purpose has never changed, regardless of universe. Thanos said, his voice resonant with absolute conviction. I seek balance, sustainability, an end to the suffering caused by unchecked expansion and limited resources. Through death on an unimaginable scale, Yoda stated, not as accusation but as clarification. Through mercy, Thanos countered, quick, painless, fair in its randomness. Half of all life, spared the slow death of starvation, war, and environmental collapse. The survivors granted the gift of sustainable prosperity. They began to walk together along the ridge overlooking Dathomir's crimson landscape, an unlikely pair engaged in the most consequential philosophical debate the galaxy had ever witnessed. Considered alternatives, have you? Yoda asked. Advanced technology, resource management, cultural evolution? Extensively, Thanos replied without hesitation. I have visited thousands of worlds across my universe, Master Yoda. I have seen every attempted solution, every compromise, every well-intentioned half-measure. They delay the inevitable but never address the fundamental imbalance. Population growth always outpaces resource production eventually. Yoda nodded slowly, his large eyes troubled. Similar discussions the Jedi Council has had throughout centuries. Conservation efforts, population management programs, many solutions attempted. With limited success, I imagine, Thanos observed. With mixed results, Yoda corrected. But without sacrificing our commitment to life's sanctity. Thanos stopped walking, turning to face the ancient Jedi directly. Sanctity is a luxury of theoretical philosophy, Grand Master. In practice, inaction in the face of overpopulation ensures greater suffering over longer periods. Is that truly more moral than a swift intervention? Swift intervention, Yoda repeated carefully. Describe this intervention in our galaxy, would you? The moment had arrived, the terrible truth laid bare beneath Dathomir's red sky. Thanos spoke without hesitation or deceit, his plan as horrifying in its clarity as in its scale. The Force connects all living things in your galaxy, a network more comprehensive than anything in my universe. With the proper focal point and sufficient energy, that network could be manipulated to simply release half of all life forms. No pain, no terror, just peaceful dissolution back into the cosmic energy field. Yoda's ears lowered slightly, the only visible sign of his inner distress. And this focal point, found it you believe you have. The Night Sisters possess an ancient artifact, Thanos confirmed. The heart of the board, slate, capable of projecting intention across vast distances. It requires only an adequate power source. Which is? A kyber crystal, Thanos said. Not just any, but one of unusual size and purity. The Night Sisters believe such crystals were used in ancient superweapons. With one, the heart could channel enough energy to affect the entire galaxy simultaneously. Yoda closed his eyes briefly, sensing the absolute conviction in Thanos' mind. This was no idle threat, no negotiating position, but a plan the Titan fully intended to execute, believing it to be the only moral course of action. Stop you, the Jedi Order must, Yoda said simply. I expected no less, Thanos replied, without anger or surprise. You are bound by your code, as I am bound by my purpose. But consider, Master Yoda, your clone wars have already killed billions, worlds ravaged, species extinguished, resources squandered, and for what? Political borders, ideological differences? At least my intervention offers equal sacrifice for tangible, universal benefit. Yoda turned away, gazing out over Dathomir's blood-red plains. Leave this planet. You must. Time to reflect. You need. Time favors entropy, Master Jedi, Thanos countered. Every moment of delay means more suffering for those your order claims to protect. Their philosophical impasse was interrupted by the arrival of Republic gunships, descending rapidly toward their position. Master Windu had evidently decided that dialogue had continued long enough, and that more direct action was required. It seems our conversation must end, Thanos observed calmly. A pity. You, at least, were willing to listen. Listen, I did, Yoda agreed gravely. Understand your position, I do. Agree with it, I cannot. As the gunships landed and clone troopers deployed in defensive formation, Thanos nodded respectfully to the Grand Master. Then we will meet again under less peaceful circumstances, Master Yoda. I bear you no ill will. Before the Republic forces could advance, the ground between them erupted with green mist. Night Sister magic enveloped Thanos, and when it cleared, he had vanished, transported deeper into the fortress by Talzin's power. Mace Windu approached Yoda, his lightsaber in hand, but not ignited. "Master Yoda, we received your signal. Is the threat as serious as reported?" "Worse," Yoda replied solemnly. "Genuine in his conviction, Thanos is. Monstrous in his conclusion, but pure in his intent. The most dangerous adversary that combination makes. Then we must mobilize the full strength of the Order," Windu decided. "If he truly intends galaxy-wide mass killing, we have no choice but to respond with maximum force." Yoda nodded reluctantly. "Inform the Council. Prepare our strongest masters. A kyber crystal of immense size Thanos seeks. Such crystals, few remain. Find them first, we must." As Republic forces established a perimeter around the Night Sister fortress, Thanos and Mother Talzin descended into ancient catacombs beneath the structure, chambers so old they predated the Night Sister Order itself. "The Jedi will never understand the necessity of your vision," Talzin said, her spectral form gliding beside the Titan. "They are constrained by dogma, by artificial distinctions between light and dark. We Night Sisters recognize that life and death are merely transitions of energy, not moral absolutes. The concepts of good and evil have always been obstacles to necessary action," Thanos agreed. "In my universe, I was called mad, a genocidal tyrant, by those who lacked the courage to face reality, yet planets I balanced centuries ago still thrive, while untouched worlds collapsed into starvation and war." They reached a chamber whose walls were inscribed with star maps, constellations unfamiliar to Thanos but which Talzin studied with reverent attention. "The location of the Kyber heart is hidden here," she explained. "The Ancient Ones encoded its position in these stellar patterns, visible only to those who understand Dathomir's deepest magics." As Talzin performed complex gestures, the star maps began to shift, constellations rearranging themselves into new configurations. "There," she finally hissed with satisfaction. "Ilum." "Ilum?" Thanos inquired. "A sacred world to the Jedi. A planet whose core is composed largely of kyber crystal formations. There we will find a crystal of sufficient size and power for our purpose." Talzin's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "But the planet is heavily protected, its location known only to the Jedi Order." "And yet you have found it," Thanos observed. "Magics older than the Jedi reveal many secrets," Talzin replied with a cold smile. "But reaching Ilum will require resources beyond what the Night Sisters possess. We need a starship capable of breaking the Republic blockade, and allies with sufficient military power to distract the Jedi." "The Separatists," Thanos concluded. "Count Dooku has maintained surveillance since my arrival. He sees opportunity in chaos, a common trait among politicians. We will offer him alliance of convenience." Talzin's expression darkened. "Dooku betrayed the Night Sisters before. He cannot be trusted." "Trust is unnecessary," Thanos stated with cold pragmatism. "Only aligned interests for as long as cooperation serves both parties. Once we reach Ilum, his usefulness ends." Above ground, Republic forces had surrounded the Night Sister fortress, led now by a full Jedi strike team including Masters Windu, Plo Koon, and Fisto. Their blockade was designed not to assault the fortress directly, but to prevent any departure. Yet even as they secured their positions, a separatist fleet emerged from hyperspace, dozens of capital ships positioning themselves in orbit. Aboard the separatist command vessel, Count Dooku received a transmission from within the fortress. The holographic forms of Thanos and Mother Talzin materialized before him, an alliance he had not anticipated. "Count Dooku," Thanos began without preamble, "your forces and mine have a mutual interest in breaking the Republic blockade." Dooku's aristocratic features revealed nothing of his thoughts. "An interesting proposition, considering you decimated my battle droids upon your arrival." "A misunderstanding," Thanos replied smoothly. "I had not yet acclimated to your galaxy's political realities. Now I understand that the Separatist Alliance represents the only viable challenge to Republic hegemony and Jedi dogmatism." Pretty words, Dooku said with practiced diplomacy. But what exactly do you offer the Separatist cause? Why should I commit resources to your extraction? Because I can end your war in a single day, Thanos stated. Not through conventional victory, but through a fundamental rebalancing that will leave both Republic and Separatist worlds equally affected, creating the conditions for genuine peace negotiations. Dooku's eyes narrowed. Elaborate. The details require secure discussion. Thanos demurred. But know that my plan targets the root cause of galactic conflict. Competition for limited resources among expanding populations. Once implemented, resource scarcity becomes a concern of the distant future rather than the present crisis. Behind his political mask, Dooku calculated rapidly. This being clearly possessed knowledge and power that could prove useful to Darth Sidious's grand plan, regardless of his specific intentions. At minimum, extracting him from Dathomir would create chaos among the Jedi and potentially reveal vulnerabilities in their defenses. Very well, the Sith Lord decided. I will deploy a landing force to create a diversion, allowing your departure via my personal shuttle. But once aboard my command ship, we will discuss the specifics of this plan in detail. Acceptable? Thanos agreed, though both parties recognized the temporary nature of their arrangement. The transmission ended, and Dooku immediately contacted his Van master through secure channels. Darth Sidious's hooded figure appeared, his face obscured as always. Lord Tyrannus, why have you deployed the fleet without authorization? An opportunity has arisen, my master, Dooku explained. The being called Thanos has allied with the Night Sisters and seeks extraction. He claims to possess the means to end the war through some form of rebalancing that targets resource competition. Sidious was silent for a long moment, his hidden mind working through implications. This being remains an unknown variable in our design, Lord Tyrannus. But his power could be valuable if properly directed. Bring him to me, but do not trust his stated intentions. If he truly possesses the means to effect galaxy-wide change, such power belongs in the hands of the Sith, not some extragalactic interloper. As you wish, my master, Dooku bowed. On the surface of Dathomir, the Republic blockade prepared for the inevitable Separatist assault. Mace Windu gathered the Jedi, strike team for final instructions. Our priority is apprehension, not elimination, he stated firmly. This Thanos must be contained and his plan dismantled. Master Yoda believes he is genuinely convinced of the righteousness of his cause, which makes him more dangerous, not less. What if containment proves impossible? Master Fisto asked, his usual smile absent in the gravity of the situation. Then we must be prepared to take more permanent action, Windu acknowledged grimly. The lives of countless beings across the galaxy may depend on our success today. The Jedi had scarcely finished their council when the first Separatist landing ships pierced the atmosphere, deploying battle droids in massive numbers across the Dathomirian plains. Republic forces engaged immediately, the sky filling with blaster fire and the thunder of artillery. In the midst of the chaos, a sleek solar sailor descended toward the Night Sister fortress, navigating through the battle with precise calculation. While Republic and Separatist forces clashed across the landscape, Thanos and Mother Talzin emerged from the fortress depths. The Titan carried a crystalline object, the heart of the slate, carefully secured in a containment field. The future of the galaxy, Talzin said reverently, balanced upon the edge of that ancient stone. One component only, Thanos corrected. Without the Kyber crystal, it remains merely potential. Their path to Dooku's ship was intercepted by Master Plo Koon, who had anticipated this escape route and positioned himself accordingly. The Keldor Jedi ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade casting sharp shadows across the red soil. I cannot allow you to leave Dathomir, Thanos, Plo Koon stated, his filtered voice resolute. Your plan violates every principle the Jedi stand for. Your principles ensure continued suffering, Thanos replied without malice. I bear you no ill will, Master Jedi, but you stand between the galaxy and its salvation. Without warning, Thanos moved with startling speed for his size, crossing the distance to Plo Koon in a heartbeat. The Jedi Master raised his lightsaber in a defensive stance, but Thanos caught his wrist with one massive hand, applying precise pressure to the nerve clusters. The lightsaber fell from suddenly numb fingers. "Your weapon," Thanos observed as he held the Jedi immobilized, "channels energy in a manner similar to technologies in my universe. Fascinating design, but ultimately limited by the user's physical capabilities." Plo Koon, despite his predicament, remained calm. "The lightsaber is merely a tool, Thanos. The true strength of a Jedi lies in the Force." With those words, Plo Koon unleashed a force push of tremendous power, one that would have sent most opponents flying backward for dozens of meters. Thanos, however, merely slid back several paces, his boots carving furrows in the soil as he maintained his balance. "Impressive," the Titan acknowledged. "Your force allows manipulation of kinetic energy at a distance. But as with all powers, technique matters more than raw strength." Before Plo Koon could prepare another attack, Mother Talzin intervened, green mist swirling around the Jedi Master. "We have no time for this," she hissed, her spectral hands weaving complex patterns. The mist solidified around Plo Koon, crystallizing into a momentary prison that would delay but not permanently contain a Jedi of his caliber. "A temporary solution," Thanos noted as they continued toward the waiting ship. "Sufficient for our needs," Talzin replied. "The ritual on Ilum will require extensive preparation. By the time the Jedi locate us, it will be too late." They boarded Count Dooku's solar sailor, finding the Sith Lord waiting in the main cabin, his curved lightsaber hilt visible at his belt but not drawn. His eyes fixed immediately on the crystalline artifact Thanos carried. The heart of the slate. Dooku identified it, surprising Talzin. The Sith archives contain references to this Night Sister relic. It is said to be capable of projecting intention across vast distances. "Your knowledge is impressive, Count," Thanos acknowledged as the ship lifted off, navigating through the ongoing battle. "Few in your galaxy seem to understand the potential of such ancient technologies. The Sith have always embraced knowledge that others fear," Dooku replied smoothly. "Now, as we make our escape, perhaps you can elaborate on this balancing you propose." Thanos studied the Sith Lord with calculating eyes, recognizing the political maneuvering for what it was. "The details require certain preparations," he demurred. "These no. But the principle is simple. Using the heart of the slate, amplified by a sufficiently powerful kyber crystal, I can create a momentary connection to every living being in the galaxy. Half will be selected at random, their life force released back into the cosmic field." Dooku's diplomatic mask slipped for a moment, genuine shock, registering before he composed himself. "Half of all life, trillions of beings?" "Precisely," Thanos confirmed without emotion. "Chosen at random, fair to rich and poor alike, affecting Republic and Separatist worlds equally. The result? Immediate end to resource competition, sustainable prosperity for the survivors, and a galaxy in genuine balance for generations to come." "Monstrous," Dooku whispered, forgetting his role momentarily. "Necessary," Thanos corrected. "Your war has already killed billions, Count Dooku. How many more will die in the years to come? How many planets will be stripped of resources to fuel your military machines? My solution is clean, equitable, and final." The solar sailor docked with Dooku's command ship, and as they disembarked, the Count had already contacted his master through their secure channel. Darth Sidious received the information about Thanos' plan with disturbing interest rather than revulsion. "This technology," Sidious mused, his voice, crackling through the encrypted transmission, "could potentially be modified. Rather than random selection, specific targets could be chosen. Political opponents, Jedi, entire systems that resist our new order." "Master," Dooku ventured carefully, "the scale of what Thanos proposes is beyond anything we have considered. Half of all life in the galaxy." "A crude application," Sidious dismissed. Bring him and this Night Sister artifact to Coruscant. Ensure he believes you support his plan while we determine how to adapt his technology to our purposes. As the Separatist fleet withdrew from Dathomir, having accomplished its extraction mission, the Republic forces regrouped. Master Plo Koon, freed from Talzin's magical prison, reported to Mace Windu and the other Jedi. They mentioned Ilum, he said gravely. Thanos seeks a kyber crystal of unusual size to power the Night Sister artifact. Windu's expression darkened. Ilum is a sacred world to the Jedi Order. If they desecrate the Quaya, crystal caves. More concerning, Master Fisto interrupted, is what they might accomplish with such power. Master Yoda described a plan to affect half of all life in the galaxy simultaneously. We must warn the temple, Windu decided. All available Jedi should be dispatched to Ilum immediately. This threat transcends the war itself. As Republic forces prepared to pursue, the Separatist fleet made the jump to hyperspace, carrying Thanos toward a confrontation that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The Mad Titan stood on the bridge of Dooku's command ship, gazing at the streaming stars of hyperspace, contemplating the balance he would soon bring to this new universe. The Force itself seemed to tremble at the calculation forming in his mind, a plan of terrible mercy that would forever change the course of the galaxy far, far away. On Ilum, the sacred crystal world of the Jedi Order, eternal winter gripped the surface. Massive glaciers and snow-covered plains stretched in every direction, broken only by the mountain ranges that concealed entrances to the crystal caves beneath. The planet's entire ecology was built around the kyber formations that grew within its crust, creating unique energy patterns that had drawn Force users for millennia. The Separatist fleet emerged from hyperspace in the Ilum system, maintaining distance from the planet's defensive systems. Count Dooku's flagship positioned itself behind one of the system's outer planets, using its mass to shield their presence from potential Republic sensors. Ilum is heavily protected, Dooku informed Thanos as they studied the tactical display. The Jedi consider it among their most sacred sites, the source of crystals for their lightsabers. Approach requires careful timing to avoid their security measures. Thanos observed the display with analytical precision. Your concern is unnecessary, Count. We need not approach with the entire fleet, merely a single shuttle capable of atmospheric entry. The Republic forces are still mobilizing on Dathomir, giving us a narrow window of opportunity. Mother Talzin, who had maintained silent observation since their departure from Dathomir, finally spoke. The heart of the slate will guide us to the proper crystal once we are on the surface. It resonates with kyber formations of sufficient power. Then we shall proceed immediately, Dooku decided, though his expression betrayed lingering doubt. He had received explicit instructions from Darth Sidious. Allow Thanos to lead them to the crystal, then intervene once its location was confirmed. The Sith would harness this power for their own grand design, not for some interloper's misguided crusade. A sleek shuttle departed from Dooku's flagship, carrying the unlikely alliance toward Ilum's frozen surface. Thanos stood near the viewport, the heart of the slate contained in a field generator beside him, its crystalline structure pulsing with faint inner light. Mother Talzin performed complex gestures over the artifact, ancient Night Sister magics that would attune it to the kyber resonance. The crystal we seek is not just any kyber formation, she explained as the shuttle penetrated Ilum's atmosphere. We require one of the great kybers, ancient crystals that predate even the Jedi Order. Most have been harvested over the millennia, but Ilum's core still harbors several, protected by natural barriers and Jedi safeguards. No barrier is insurmountable, Thanos stated with the confidence of one who had overcome countless obstacles across multiple universes. Guide us to the nearest access point. The shuttle landed on a plateau overlooking a vast ice canyon. Wind howled across the landscape, driving snow in horizontal sheets that reduced visibility to mere meters. Talzin directed them toward a crevasse barely visible in the glacial wall, a narrow passage that descended steeply into darkness. The Jedi temple lies 40 kilometers east, Dooku informed them as they disembarked into the biting cold. It is likely unmanned at present, given the focus on the Clone Wars, but automated security systems will detect any unauthorized approach. Then stealth remains our ally, Thanos replied, seemingly unbothered by Ilum's sub-zero temperatures. The Titan carried the heart of the slate, now glowing more intensely as it detected the kyber-rich environment. Mother Talzin floated beside him, her spectral form rippling in the Arctic wind. They descended into the crevasse, which quickly opened into a complex network of ice tunnels, illuminated by an ethereal blue glow. The source became apparent as they ventured deeper, kyber crystals embedded in the walls, ranging from tiny formations to clusters the size of a human fist. Each pulsed with inner light, responding to the presence of force sensitives in their midst. "The crystals sing," Talzin whispered, her voice taking on a reverential quality. "They recognize the magnitude of our purpose. They respond to intention and resonance," Dooku corrected, maintaining a skeptical distance from the Night Sisters' mysticism. "The Jedi believe kyber crystals to be semi-sentient, attuning themselves to those worthy of wielding their power." Thanos studied the formations with scientific curiosity. "In my universe, there were 6 singularities, stones of immense power that predated creation itself. These crystals share certain properties, though their energy signature differs significantly. They continued through the labyrinthine passages, guided by the heart of the slate, which pulsed more intensely when they chose correct paths. After hours of descent, the tunnels widened into a vast underground cathedral, its ceiling lost in darkness above, its walls composed entirely of kyber formations that bathed the chamber in blue-white light. At the center of this natural temple stood what they sought, a kyber crystal of impossible size, easily 4 meters tall and 2 meters wide at its base, pulsing with power that had accumulated over countless millennia. Unlike the blue-white glow of the smaller formations, this great kyber emanated a clear, colorless light that somehow contained all wavelengths simultaneously. "There," Talzin hissed with triumph. "The crystal of infinite resonance, one of the oldest kyber formations in the galaxy. The ancient texts speak of its power to amplify intention across unlimited distances." Thanos approached the massive crystal with measured steps, the heart of the slate pulsing in synchronized rhythm with the great kyber. "This will be sufficient," he confirmed, his voice hushed not with reverence but with the gravity of purpose. "With this, we can affect every living being in the galaxy simultaneously." Dooku remained near the chamber entrance, his hand casually resting on his lightsaber hilt. The moment approached when he would need to intervene, to claim this power for the Sith rather than allow Thanos to proceed with his plan. Yet the Count hesitated, calculating the optimal moment, aware that confronting the Titan directly might prove more challenging than anticipated. "The ritual requires preparation," Talzin announced, beginning to inscribe arcane symbols on the ice floor surrounding the crystal. "The heart must be properly aligned with the great kyber, and the focusing incantation performed precisely. Any error could result in uncontrolled energy dispersion." As Talzin worked, Thanos turned to Dooku with knowing eyes. "Your alliance has been convenient, Count, but I sense your underlying purpose differs from mine. Your master sees potential for targeted application rather than random, equitable selection." Dooku stiffened, his diplomatic mask momentarily failing him. "You presume much. I have encountered those who seek power for its own sake in every universe I have visited," Thanos replied calmly. "They inevitably fail to comprehend the necessity of genuine balance, of truly fair sacrifice." Their tense exchange was interrupted by a tremor that shook the entire chamber, causing small kyber fragments to break loose from the ceiling and shatter on the floor below. A distant rumble grew progressively louder, like approaching thunder. "Republic forces," Dooku surmised, activating his comlink to contact his fleet. Only static answered. "They've established a communication blackout. The Jedi have arrived sooner than anticipated." Thanos showed no concern. "Continue the preparations," he instructed Talzin. I will delay any interference. To Dooku, he added with pointed meaning, your choice approaches count, genuine balance or selfish power. Consider carefully. Before Dooku could respond, a new tremor shook the chamber, this one focused and deliberate rather than the result of distant explosions. The wall opposite their entrance point began to crack, ice splintering in geometric patterns before exploding inward. Through the newly created opening strode Master Yoda, his small figure somehow filling the massive space with presence. Behind him came Masters Windu, Fisto, and Plo Koon. Lightsabers ignited and casting colorful reflections across the crystal surfaces. Too late, you are, Yoda stated simply, his ancient eyes fixed on Thanos. Stop this, we must. Thanos faced the Jedi Masters without drawing any weapon, his posture neither aggressive nor defensive, but simply resolute. You fight to maintain an unsustainable status quo, Master Jedi. Your compassion for present life blinds you to the greater suffering your inaction ensures. That is not your decision to make, Mace Windu declared, advancing with his purple blade held at ready position. Trillions of beings have the right to determine their own fate, not have it imposed by your twisted philosophy. History is written by survivors, Thanos replied. In my universe, worlds I balanced centuries ago still thrive, while those left to their own devices collapsed into war and starvation. The same pattern repeats across galaxies, across realities. The math is irrefutable. More to existence than mathematics, there is, Yoda countered, moving slowly to the right while the other Jedi spread out to surround the chamber. The Force, life itself, beyond calculation they are. The standoff was broken by Count Dooku, who made his decision in that moment. His curved lightsaber ignited with a distinctive snap hiss, its red blade casting bloody reflections across the ice walls. The Sith have foreseen a different balance, he declared. One achieved through control rather than random culling. Now surrounded by opponents on all sides, Thanos merely smiled, a terrifying expression not of anger but of absolute certainty. So be it. The path to salvation is never without resistance. What followed was a battle unlike any the galaxy had witnessed before. Thanos moved with impossible speed and precision for his size, each motion calculated for maximum efficiency. As Mace Windu attacked with Varpad, the most aggressive lightsaber form, Thanos simply caught his wrist mid-strike, using the Jedi's own momentum to throw him into Master Fisto's charge. Master Plo Koon attempted to immobilize the Titan with a Force grip, but Thanos' will proved indomitable. He advanced through the telekinetic pressure as though walking through a strong wind, each step deliberate and unstoppable. Dooku, seeing opportunity in the chaos, directed his attack not at Thanos but at Mother Talzin, seeking to claim the heart of the slate for his master. The Night Sister Witch responded with a torrent of green energy that clashed against the Sith Lord's Force lightning, creating a storm of conflicting powers at the chamber's edge. Only Yoda seemed to gauge Thanos' true capacity, watching the Titan's movements with ancient, calculating eyes before making his move. The Grand Master leapt into action with the speed and agility that had made him legendary, his green lightsaber a blur as he attacked not with brute force, but with perfect precision, targeting joint points and leveraging his small size against Thanos' mass. For the first time, Thanos was forced to truly defend himself, blocking and evading with increasingly focused attention. Impressive, he acknowledged as Yoda rebounded off the chamber wall to attack from an unexpected angle. Your species' size belies remarkable power. Size matters not, Yoda replied, landing gracefully before unleashing a Force push that actually succeeded in moving Thanos back several meters. The Force, my ally it is. While the direct confrontation between Thanos and the Jedi Masters continued, Mother Talzin completed her preparations. The heart of the slate now hovered before the great Kyber, both crystals resonating at increasing frequency, creating harmonics that made the entire chamber vibrate. Arcane symbols inscribed on the floor began to glow with sickly green light, forming a circuit that connected the two powerful artifacts. It begins, Talzin announced, her voice taking on an echoing, multi-toned quality as she channeled ancient magics. The great balancing approaches. Soon, half of all life will return to the cosmic force, creating harmony and sustainability for generations to come. Recognizing the imminent threat, Master Windu disengaged from direct confrontation with Thanos and charged toward the ritual site. Dooku, despite his philosophical disagreement with Thanos' methods, moved to intercept the Jedi Master, their lightsabers clashing in a fury of purple and red energy. "You would allow this abomination, Dooku?" Windu demanded as they exchanged rapid strikes. "I would study it," Dooku corrected, "and adapt its principles to more selective application. The Sith understand necessary sacrifice better than the Jedi ever could." Their duel intensified, two masters of lightsaber combat demonstrating consummate skill as they fought for fundamentally different visions of the galaxy's future. Windu's Vapad technique drew upon his opponent's darkness, channeling it back in a continuous loop that few could withstand. Yet Dooku's Makashi precision created an impenetrable defense, each movement economical and perfectly timed. Meanwhile, Thanos found himself genuinely challenged by the combined efforts of Yoda, Plo Koon, and Kit Fisto. The Jedi Masters attacked from multiple angles simultaneously, using the Force to coordinate their movements with supernatural precision. For the first time since his arrival in this galaxy, Thanos was forced to exert his full strength and tactical intelligence. "Your resistance is admirable," the Titan acknowledged as he caught a force-propelled boulder mid-air and hurled it back toward Master Fisto, but ultimately futile. "The ritual has begun. The balance approaches." Indeed, the resonance between the heart of the slate and the great Kyber had reached a critical threshold. Energy crackled between the two artifacts, creating a beam of intense light that illuminated the entire chamber. Mother Talzin's form had become almost transparent as she channeled more power than any Night Sister had wielded in millennia. "I can feel them," she whispered in awe, "every living being in the galaxy, connected through the Force. Their life essence awaits the Great Division, the merciful culling that will ensure future prosperity." Yoda, sensing the approaching catastrophe, disengaged from the battle with Thanos and approached the ritual site. The ancient Jedi Master closed his eyes, connecting deeply with the Force in a way few beings could comprehend. Around him, the Kyber crystals embedded in the chamber walls began to pulse with new resonance, responding to his profound connection. "Balance, yes," Yoda acknowledged, his voice carrying unusual power. "But through harmony, not destruction. Through life, not death." With these words, Yoda extended his consciousness into the resonance field itself, inserting his will into the developing connection between the heart of the slate and the great Kyber. Where Talzin sought to create a severing effect that would release half of all life force, Yoda introduced a harmonic that reinforced connection instead of breaking it. The competing intentions created visible distortion in the energy beam, which fluctuated between Talzin's sickly green and Yoda's pure white. The great Kyber began to oscillate between these opposing purposes, its structure vibrating with increasing intensity. Thanos, recognizing the Jedi Master's intervention, moved to stop him with terrible purpose. "You risk greater catastrophe through your interference," he warned, advancing despite the continued attacks from Plo Koon and Kit Fisto. "The energy must be directed properly, or it will discharge randomly." "A risk worth taking," Master Windu declared, disengaging from his duel with Dooku to join Yoda's effort. The Jedi Master extended his hand toward the great Kyber, adding his own considerable force presence to Yoda's counter-resonance. Dooku, seeing the ritual threatened, made a strategic decision. Rather than continuing to fight the Jedi directly, he directed a precisely aimed Force lightning strike at the chamber ceiling above the great Kyber. The ceiling cracked, massive ice segments breaking loose and plummeting toward the ritual site. Thanos moved with astonishing speed, positioning himself to shield the heart of the slate from the falling debris. The impact was tremendous, shaking the entire chamber and creating a momentary distraction that allowed Mother Talzin to redouble her efforts. The resonance beam stabilized briefly, returning to her intended frequency. "Yes," she hissed with triumph. "The balance comes. Feel it approaching, the great division that will save all worlds." For a moment, it seemed Thanos' terrible vision would be realized. The heart of the slate pulsed with increasing intensity, the great Kyber amplifying its effect to galactic scale. Throughout the chamber, smaller Kyber crystals began to shatter from the overwhelming energy, raining crystalline fragments across the combatants. Then Master Yoda did something unexpected. Rather than continuing to fight against the resonance directly, he surrendered himself completely to the Force. The ancient Jedi Master's physical form seemed to become translucent, pure Force energy, radiating from his being as he connected not just with the Kyber crystals but with the fundamental fabric of reality itself. "Life, death, transformation," Yoda intoned, his voice echoing with unusual timbre. "Balance through understanding, not imposition. The Force, choose it must." The resonance beam connecting the heart of the slate and the great Kyber began to change, not through conflict but through transcendence. Yoda had introduced a third possibility. Neither Thanos' division nor simple preservation of the status quo, but something more profound, a galactic awakening, a strengthening of the connection between all living beings through the Force. Thanos recognized the danger to his plan immediately. "No," he said, for the first time showing genuine alarm. "The selective release must be precisely calibrated. Random amplification of Force sensitivity will create greater chaos, not balance." The Titan moved to physically intervene, only to find his path blocked by Masters Plo Koon and Kit Fisto, who had positioned themselves between him and the ritual site. Simultaneously, Master Windu engaged Mother Talzin directly, his lightsaber cutting through her mystical defenses and disrupting her control of the heart of the slate. The resonance became unstable, the beam fluctuating wildly between green, white, and now a new golden hue that represented Yoda's third path. The great Kyber began to crack, unable to contain the competing energies channeling through its crystalline structure. "It will shatter," Dooku realized with sudden clarity. "The energy release will be catastrophic." "Not if properly redirected," Thanos countered, his tactical mind rapidly calculating alternatives. Despite their philosophical differences, the Titan and the Sith Lord shared a moment of understanding. The imminent crystal detonation could destroy the entire chamber and everyone within it. In that moment of crisis, the strangest alliance formed. Thanos, Dooku, and the Jedi Masters all recognized the immediate threat transcended their conflict over the galaxy's future. Master Yoda, still radiating Force energy, directed his power not to oppose the resonance but to channel it upward, creating a conduit through the ice ceiling toward Ilum's surface. Thanos, grasping the strategy immediately, positioned himself beside the great Kyber and placed his hands directly on its fracturing surface. His immense physical strength and indomitable will served to temporarily contain the crystal's detonation, giving the others precious seconds to establish the energy conduit. "The heart," he instructed Dooku, who stood nearest the Night Sister. "Artifact. Deactivate its field generator. Sever the connection." Dooku complied without hesitation, deactivating the containment field around the heart of the slate and using precise telekinesis to move it away from the great Kyber's influence. Mother Talzin screamed in protest, but Master Windu's continued assault prevented her from reasserting control. With the direct connection broken, the great Kyber's instability decreased marginally, though the energy it had already absorbed continued to build toward critical mass. Yoda, Plo Koon, and Kit Fisto combined their Force abilities to strengthen the upward conduit, creating a path of least resistance for the imminent discharge. "It comes," Yoda warned, his physical form beginning to resolidify as he withdrew from his deep Force communion. "Brace yourselves, we must." The great Kyber shattered with a sound beyond sound, a crystalline scream that resonated through the Force itself. Energy erupted upward through the conduit the Jedi had, created, vaporizing ice and rock as it carved a path to Ilum's surface. The chamber shook violently, support structures failing as the cathedral-like space began to collapse. Thanos, still positioned closest to the detonation point, absorbed the brunt of the backwash energy. Even his incredible durability was tested as the crystal's power washed over him, burning through his armor and searing his violet skin. For the first time since his arrival, the Titan showed genuine pain, driven to one knee by the force of the blast. As the chamber collapsed around them, Master Windu shouted over the cacophony, "We must evacuate immediately. This entire section of the caverns is becoming unstable." The temporary alliance fractured as quickly as it had formed. Dooku, seizing opportunity in chaos, grabbed the heart of the slate and retreated toward one of the still intact tunnels. Mother Talzin, her form flickering weakly after the ritual's disruption, followed the Sith Lord, her hatred for the Jedi momentarily outweighing her alliance with Thanos. The Jedi Masters began their own retreat, but Yoda paused, turning back to where Thanos still knelt amid the destruction. The Grand Master's expression held no triumph, only solemn understanding. "Failed. Your purpose has," Yoda said, "but survived. The galaxy has. Consider this, you should." Thanos looked up, his face showing not defeat but recalculation. "This setback changes nothing, Master Jedi. The fundamental imbalance remains. Resources finite, population infinite in potential. The math does not change. More than math, life is." Yoda replied simply before joining his fellow Jedi in their evacuation. Left alone in the collapsing chamber, Thanos finally rose to his feet, his incredible durability allowing him to withstand injuries that would have killed most beings. The Mad Titan surveyed the destruction around him, the shattered remnants of the great Kyber now worthless for his purpose. Yet his expression remained, resolute, his conviction unshaken. "A temporary setback only," he said to the empty chamber. "Balance comes, inevitably, in all universes." As Thanos made his own escape through a different tunnel, the energy released from the Great Kyber's destruction continued its journey upward, eventually breaching Ilum's surface in a spectacular eruption visible from orbit. The beam shot into space like a beacon, its energy dispersing into the fabric of the Force itself. Though Thanos' specific plan had been thwarted, the energy release had consequences unforeseen by either the Titan or the Jedi. Throughout the galaxy, Force-sensitive beings experienced visions of balance and imbalance, of prosperity and scarcity, of life and death in eternal cycle. The Force itself seemed to contemplate the questions Thanos had raised, sending ripples of consideration through its vast, interconnected web. On Coruscant, in the Jedi Temple, younglings awakened simultaneously from dreams of dust and prosperity. On Sereno, Count Dooku delivered the heart of the slate to Darth Sidious, who recognized both its potential and its limitations. And across the stars, beings of all species felt a momentary connection to something larger than themselves, a brief awareness of the finite nature of existence and resources. The Mad Titan had failed to impose his solution, but he had planted a seed of awareness that would grow in unexpected ways throughout the galaxy. Balance would come, perhaps not through his terrible mercy, but through 1,000 smaller choices made by beings newly conscious of their interconnection. Thanos himself disappeared from known space, retreating to the outer rim to recalculate his approach. The heart of the slate remained in Sith possession, its power studied but never fully harnessed. And Ilum, the sacred crystal world, bore a new scar. A massive crater where the Great Kyber had once grown, a permanent reminder of the day the galaxy almost experienced balance through division. The Force, ever mysterious in its workings, incorporated this new awareness into its eternal flow, ensuring that Thanos' philosophical challenge would not be forgotten, but transmuted into something more nuanced than his binary solution. The Mad Titan had come to bring balance through division, but perhaps had instead planted seeds for balance through understanding. As for Mother Talzin, she returned to Dathomir. Her power diminished, but her perspective expanded. The Night Sisters would incorporate elements of Thanos' philosophy into their own mystic traditions, creating a new understanding of balance that acknowledged the necessity of limitation without embracing wholesale destruction. The Clone Wars continued, resource consumption unabated, populations expanding across habitable worlds. Yet beneath these familiar patterns, something had changed in the collective unconscious of the galaxy. A question had been asked that could not be unasked, a calculation proposed that could not be entirely dismissed. Balance, but at what cost? In the vastness of space, aboard a small vessel of unfamiliar design, Thanos charted a course toward the unknown regions. The Mad Titan's purpose remained unchanged, his conviction unshaken. He had encountered resistance in countless forms across multiple universes, yet always persevered. This galaxy, with its mysterious force and ancient conflicts, presented new challenges but also new possibilities. Balance comes, he said to the stars streaming past his viewport. If not through mercy, then through inevitable collapse. The math remains irrefutable. The vessel disappeared into hyperspace, carrying its terrible purpose toward distant stars. The galaxy had survived its encounter with Thanos, but the questions he raised lingered like shadows across the Force itself, demanding answers the Jedi philosophy could not easily provide.